Ottoman Empire, which is Turks. They're the ones who are ruling the Muslim world. So what the British did, they went and promised, at that time Saudi Arabia did not exist, they went and promised a person who was called the Sharif of Mecca, if you fight on our side,
I think just go read, because chances are they probably will not be taught about that. They will, or even if it is, it's gonna be superficially taught. But at 9, she's very curious to understand why such things are happening.
So as
and she's 9.
As a parent, if you're illiterate in history, you're also illiterate, and I know this is a word that people don't like hearing, you're also fairly illiterate on the religion that you practice. Guess what? Your kids are going to ask you questions that you will not be able to answer. Then you will start accusing your kids of becoming apostates, or of becoming, or just not wanting. Kids are innocent. So when they ask simple questions, you have to be prepared and know, how...
And especially if your kids are, hey, I'm sorry to say, if you're black, African, Kenyan, whatever, expect those.
Yeah, so you see, there's a 9-year-old Muslim kid who was with the parent was asking us, if the Israelis, are bombing the Palestinians, why can't the Muslims fight back? That's a 9-year-old asking, But now you have to be very careful and very
in how you answer
measured
that. Yes.
in how you answer that question, because a lot of these interactions that you have with young kids, they tend to have a big impact. Part of the reason why I think we have a generation that doesn't care much about history is because a lot of people also grew around environments where there was no consciousness, especially during our era. Everybody was trying to be careful. Nobody was trying to say anything and get arrested. So that's why
Kenya.
Yeah, so that's why you end up having people who are in our age group or younger, but I'm sorry to say, but they are just fairly illiterate in very recent Kenyan history that's available. I can see there are so many comments that have been coming in.
They have been coming in hot and heavy.
Yes, and I'm going to start with Esther's comment. Esther Mulusa says, Charles has never apologized for colonialism. Africans need to understand European semantics. An apology is important because the next big step is taking fiscal responsibility. That meeting was another example of Africans groveling to Western leaders. I was disappointed by Ruto, the unintelligent man with his dowdy wife coming to wine and dine uncalled for in these hard times. Yes, so I think, there were people who are asking why an apology is important, and this is where an understanding is required, and I'm glad that Esther is telling us an apology comes with fiscal responsibility. They will be opened up for litigation, and that's the reason why they don't want to apologize, because if the British start apologizing, I guarantee you that country will become bankrupt because of what they did to the entire world during the reign of the empire, starting with their own neighbors. Scotland, Wales, Ireland, that's where they learned the skills of colonization, and they took it to every other part of the world.
India.
Now, India, there's someone here who made a comment about that. Stephen Batty says, don't forget the project that splits India to form Pakistan. That caused a lot of problems. There's a movie out there about it. I forgot the name. Yes, so Kashmir and the forced relocation of people, the Muslims who are, on the Indian side, were forced to shift and go to the other side. Yeah. So the one of the bigger Muslim scholars here in the US, young Muslim scholars, Yasir Kadhi, you know about him. Yes. I've shared, a lot of videos on him with you. Very intelligent guy. So his history, his family, he was born in the US, he was born in Texas. But his family came from Pakistan. But originally, family were from India. So they were forced to go to this other side. So that was also another very, very ugly moment in history that the Brits will pay for dearly if they open up themselves to litigation.
And in addition to that, some Brits were saying that, Kenya should be content and very happy that the British came. They taught us English. They taught us, and they allowed us, and they taught us.
They civilized us.
They civilized us.
Yeah, so that's a narrative they like spreading.
There in Brito, yes.
Yeah, that's a narrative they like spreading.
So akina Slay, Udi, akina Brian Binyamo, Asheke, all those ones, they should be thankful that Brito came and they civilized our parents and our ancestors, who in turn civilized us.
Yeah, that's what we call nonsense. And the good thing, and I think they're also saying it right now, people are starting to understand what exactly was happening. Kenya Doyo says, atume reparations kwanza. And then Slay says, British went round just causing chaos. They need to apologize and compensate. No excuses. And the chaos on the African continent, in the Asian continent, that's India, Pakistan, and also in the Arab world. They were involved everywhere.
For some of you who may not know, the Balfour Declaration.
Before the
1917.
Before the Balfour...
2023.
Before the Balfour Declaration, there was something called the Sykes-Picot Agreement.
Yes!
Yeah, where the British and the French drew a map and decided how they were gonna... This was even before being victors in the war. They had already decided how the Middle East was gonna be divided. Yeah. And this is what caused some of the problems that we see today. And this is also what brought an end to...
the Ottoman.
To the 1300-year-old. So it wasn't just the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was a 500-year-old empire. But the Ottoman Empire was a continuation of the Islamic Khilafah, or what's called the Caliphate, from the Prophet Muhammad over 1450 years ago, all the way to 1924. So it was over 1300 years of continuous rule that was brought to a halting end, because what the British do, they double-crossed people. Because remember, the Turks are the ones who are, the interesting thing that a lot of people don't know is that the Muslim world was ruled by Arabs for a very short time. From the Arabs, at some point, it went to the Persians. And Persians are not Arabs. Never call Iranians Arabs. So at some point, it went to the Persians. And then out of those 1300 years, 500 years was the Ottoman Empire, which is Turks. They're the ones who are ruling the Muslim world. So what the British did, they went and promised, at that time Saudi Arabia did not exist, they went and promised a person who was called the Sharif of Makkah, if you fight on our side, because in World War I, the Turks were on the side of the Germans. So the British went and convinced the Arabs, the Sharif of Makkah, if you make Arabs fight on our side against the Germans, and that's against the Ottomans, we will give you the Khilafah back. So there was history here whereby they were saying, the way we're gonna divide this up, we're gonna give back the caliphate to you. But at the same time, this guy called the Lawrence of Arabia, I don't know whether you guys have watched a movie called the Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes.
He was involved, and then there was also some double crossing, because also Saud, now the original guy called Saud, because Saudi Arabia is named after a person. It was the dad of the grandfather of Mohammed bin Salman. He was called Saud. So there was some double dealings and double crossings. So at the end of it, there was no caliphate, and the Sauds are the ones who prevailed, and they took that small part called Saudi Arabia, and other parts of the Arab world were divided. But this is just part of the mess that the Brits created in all different parts of the world.
Comments hapo zimejaja.
Yes, comments zimeja. Esther anasema, even the skull of Kwaitalel was never returned. We should also appreciate the Nandi resistance and even Mekatilili, and not limit it to only Mau Mau. That's very true. That's another part of Kenyan history that I think needs to be corrected, where there's one group that, justifiably so fought for independence, but it's the one it's the one that depicted as it's like they were the only people.
So not the only
who are fighting for
rightfully so, and that is why it is important. Hii history tufunzwe ndio tujue.